Ahoy! Skipper Chris here. Today we're going to look at the options to sail from Bahamas to the Eastern Caribbean. A passage we just did after spending 6 weeks cruising the Azores, which is amazing, but also quite challenging when you have a yacht with a 2.4 meters draft. More about that in another video.
Wow, huh? Nice! I like it!
From Bahamas, there are two very different ways to make it to the eastern islands of the Caribbean. Option 1 is to sail entirely offshore route, and the second option is to break down the long passage into shorter cruising legs by taking the inshore route, also known as the Thornless Path. It should be noted that the inshore route may entail less hard sailing against possible strong headwinds, but it will take much longer and may end up being just as challenging as the offshore route. The offshore route is very attractive for yachts starting from northern Florida, as they can take the route north of the Bahamas. Yachts starting further south or Bahamas can take the same route via Nassau by taking the Northeast Providence Channel. For the offshore route, the passage plan is to make as much east as possible along 25 degrees latitude and only head south after you reach the 65 meridian or even later if your Caribbean destination cannot be reached on one port tack. The best time for the offshore passage is November and December, when the trade winds are moderate northeasterly and the hurricane season is over. The offshore route should not be sailed too late in the winters, as the trade wind will grow stronger and have more east in them after January. Let's have a look at how this passage worked out for us. Setting off from Nassau first week of January, taking the offshore option. We had been monitoring the weather for a few weeks while enjoying the blue waters of Azores, and winds has been blowing constantly northeast to east with the occasionally calm day. As you will see, this passage would turn out to be a textbook example that being on a schedule will eventually get you in a tough situation weather-wise. We had to be in the Caribbean on a specific day, and there was no weather window that would allow us to go east to the 65 meridian. Instead, we are looking at east-northeasterly winds, which was still durable, but it meant 7 to 8 days of beating on a port tack. The Caribbean was calling, and off we went. On day 2, we left Bahamas behind and were sailing into the Atlantic on a starboard tack, as the wind had veered to southeast. A warning of what was in store for us. On day 4, we finally got some northeasterly winds and started heading towards the Caribbean on a port tack, but we are still far from the I-65. Updated grip files were still encouraging, showing east-northeast winds that will take us in one tack to St. Martin, our destination in the Caribbean. Crew was getting used to the watch still, but struggling a bit with the rough seas as we had strong headwinds, sailing with deep reefed main and staysail. Remember, being on a schedule can give you a bumpy ride. As we were approaching the trade winds with the expected northeasterly winds, the wind started to veer to southeast, and we found ourselves heading towards Puerto Rico. Looking at the bigger picture for the grip files, we saw a strong front from North America was pushing the trade wind south of the Virgin Islands, giving us strong southeasterly headwinds. As the saying goes, there are 3 types of wind: too much, too little, and headwind. So we had no other option than to tack along Puerto Rico in search of the northeasterly winds lying south of the Virgin Islands. We spent the next day tacking. Despite the strong headwinds, the crew morale was high as we caught several mahi-mahi and one wahoo.
Mahi-mahi! Mahi-mahi!
On the morning of day 10, we could finally say, "Land Ahoy!" as we sailed into Marigot Bay, St. Martin. Due to the southeasterly winds, the planned 1,000 nautical miles offshore passage turned into a 1,500 nautical miles beat. Full marks to the crew and Saga, our Swan 47. Well done.
10 days passage, 1,500 nautical miles off, hardcore beating.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Well done!
Cheers! Well done.